friends, it's Amy at Doki Doki Forest. Welcome. I'm so glad you are here. Now today we have some more pages for Junk Journal January. Now this was a hashtag created by Meg Journals in collaboration with Get Messy Art. I'll have all the information down below. And they had a prompt for each day that was just like a word or two. And then they had videos to go with that to inspire you. But I'm kind of just doing my own thing. And then I'm going to go back and see what they had to say. Hopefully I haven't missed the video. I don't know if it's a timed thing. But I'm still working on it. So I'm going to watch those if I can later and see what they were up to because I'm sure it's awesome. But I decided that I would just do whatever popped into my head first for these prompts. And then later on, if I see what they're up to, I'll probably want to do that and play around and do that too. That's a whole nother story. So for this video, you will see what I've created for days 14 through 21. So there'll still be at least one more video, probably two, before I finish this journal. I do have all my ideas sketched out. It's just a matter of sitting down and actually doing them. So for this one, this is day 14, pattern. And as you can see, I struggled a bit with drawing this magical leopard sort of cat, but eventually we got there. I don't know, I was like drawing with the pencil and I kept drawing and erasing and drawing and erasing and sketching and erasing and all that. And I finally was like, you know what? I'm just going to get my pen and do it in ink and see what happens. And for some reason, it worked better for me. I don't know why, because usually, I do like to sketch something before going right into ink, but I don't know what it was. I just could not wrap my head around drawing this creature. But we got there. We got there in the end. And the pattern is, instead of having spots or stripes, this big cat has a heart pattern. So we're going with blue here just because I thought that would be fun. And this is not a realistic sort of cat. Of course, this is a magic cat. And so, for the hearts, I decided that they should be a nice shimmering gold. And this leopard is just having a nice stretch, maybe doing some yoga or just relaxing in the forest. Just kind of a chill day. So, you can see close up. I'm trying to move it so you can see that shimmery gold. And I'm just going to keep the paper I already had in there and I'm just going to draw on top of it. So I'm going to make sort of a pattern background just using my mild liner markers and just doing some swirls. They're kind of like, they remind me of the 70s with the colors except for that purple. But basically I just was doing every color except for blue, so that way the leopard could be the star in the center and hopefully there wouldn't be any blue to take away from them. And in they go, the trusty rock to weigh it down until the glue dries. And that's it, that page is done. So now I'm working on day 15, which was opposites. So I had this idea that there would be these two opposite dragons and they have these long necks and the necks are sort of intertwined and the dragons would be opposite from each other. So, for example, if one had horns curling forward, the other one would have them curling back. And if one of them had sort of sharp, spiky sort of spine scales going down its back, the other one would have rounded. And then coloring and so on and so forth. So there's one dragon that's facing to the right that's more round sort of shapes, softer shapes. And then the dragon facing left is more harsher shapes, sharp angles and things like that. But I gotta tell you, I was getting real confused drawing this. I was sketching it out and I would just get so lost in which one was going which way and okay, hold on. Is that someone's stomach or is that their back? Oh my gosh. I mean, it's just two characters intertwined, and they're not even intertwined more than once. It's just that, a couple little twists there. But anyway, that was enough to throw me off. So got it done though. Penciled, inked, now watercolor. So again, the coloring will be different. So this one that's sort of more soft and round sort of shapes, this one will have greens and blues, maybe a little purple. And then the other one will have more of your red, orange, yellow sort of color range. But yeah, I almost changed this and did something else. I don't know what the something else would be, but you should see the sketch of this I did in my sketchbook is even a mess. So it did not help me at all because I had erased and redrawn it so many times that when I was looking at my sketch to draw this on the watercolor paper, it was just a disaster. I couldn't figure out what the sketch was doing either. So I almost just scrapped it and said, you know what, maybe I'll just do something else. But then I kept with it. And, I love my dragons. They show up a lot. So any chance I have to draw a dragon is a good day, I think. Or pretty much any mythical creature I'm happy drawing. But yeah, so this challenge is going pretty well. I am 99% sure I'll finish it in March, which is pretty good for me, but I'm not going to worry about, the fact that it was a challenge in January. I'm just taking the prompts and having fun with them. So I figure as long as I get it done at some point this year, that's good, I think we should just be gentle with ourselves that way. If we get something done, great. If we can't get it done, that's okay too. If you do one page and then you say, I'm not doing any more, great. If you do the whole thing, great. I just feel like our lives are full and sometimes we have a lot of interruptions that maybe we didn't know were going to happen. And it's not even that they're all bad interruptions. It can be good interruptions too. But, life happens and we just adjust accordingly. It's just putting in some shadows, some little darker spots here now that I've got like the color on, like the first layer or two. And then I just kind of go back in, try to add a little bit of depth by adding some dark shadow. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Then we'll be cutting these guys out. Oh, and I was thinking about the scales too, because I was thinking maybe the red one, I guess, because I can see I have black scales on that one, like the ink marks for the scales. And I was thinking the other one could have white scales, so I could use my gel pen once the watercolor is dry, and I can add in some white scales, and that would be another way that they could be kind of opposite. I think opposite may have been in last year's prompts as well, or something like it, because I remember making a sort of light fairy and dark fairy sort of opposite theme. So I'm pretty sure it was the same prompt, or maybe it was just similar. So if you're interested in that, you can check out my Junk Journal January 2023. And you can see I did some drawings in that one as well. That was really one where it started off as kind of like I didn't know what I was doing, but then eventually I just wound up making a ton of characters, sort of like I'm doing here. So I'm going to glue this black paper over the paper I had used in the journal, which was just like this Metroid printout that my son had printed and then not needed. So but I wanted to cover it up because I wanted there to be a plain backdrop to the dragons. And then I thought, I got to do something to this background. So maybe I'll kind of have opposite sort of framework around them. So it's like silver and gold. Now our next page for day 16 is flow. And I had two ideas that popped into my mind at the same time for this one. So the first one was I was imagining this elf who was kind of just floating down the river, just letting the river take them, wherever it may, just going with the flow. And I sketched that one out, but then I immediately sketched out a unicorn after with a flowing mane. And so the unicorn one, I went with that one. It just fit on the page better, and I just felt like drawing it more than the other design. So maybe I'll draw the other design another time for another page, another day, but not this one. You'll notice I'm only painting some of the mane. I drew these extra lines that I guess are the mane too, but I really didn't like how they looked. So those are going to get chopped off. So you'll see those remain in black and white, and then I'm just painting the ones that I liked how they looked. So this unicorn is feeling really fabulous. So proud of their mane. They're just like tossing their head back and forth and letting their mane just flow and blow in the wind. And they're really into themselves, I think. They're proud of their mane. Maybe they've been taking care of their mane. They're using some really good products, and they're proud of it. They're showing it off. Why not, right? And I kind of wanted to keep some 80s colors in there. So we've got our pinks, purples, some teal, and a gold horn to top the whole thing off. And I'm using my shimmery paints. I love the Paul Rubens. I think they're called metallics. I always say shimmery, but I think they're technically called, maybe they're metallic shimmery. Anyway, they come in a pink case, and they're super fun. And now I'm designing the background. I do like the page that's already there. It's this just piece of printer paper that I had sprayed with different colors and written on with highlighter, and then I sprayed the highlighter to see what would happen and different markers, and I do like that, but I want there to be a little something else too. So I'm cutting this textured pink paper into strips. First I was going to put the whole piece on, but then I decided I didn't want it to cover up too much of that original paper because I do like the designs. So if I just cut it up into like these squiggly shapes, then you get a little bit of everything. And of course, a little more gold. I'm like really enjoying the shimmery paints, both my Paul Rubens set as well as the little tin I have that has that gold and some green and some other colors. And I'm just really loving it. So get some glue on that unicorn and then my rock paperweight, and the unicorn is done. And by the way, I'll show you these pages in slow motion and a little bit closer at the end of the video, so don't worry about, that I'm going quickly. This page is day 17, and the word of the day was whimsical. So I figured, what's more whimsical than finger painting? I mean, there's a lot of whimsical things, but finger painting is just, so fun and really takes me away and makes me think of just painting as a kid, just getting messy, and I love it. So I wanted to do these kind of like circles in the background and just make a very colorful, doesn't have to really make sense background. I mean, I've got the grass and I'm adding a blue sky, but then there's just all these circles just to make it colorful and fun and doodly and whimsical. But we can't just have the background. We got to have somebody walking through this little whimsical scene. So I'm drawing a cowboy hat. No, just kidding. I'm actually drawing a mushroom, but I feel like the hat really looks like a cowboy hat at first. And then I was trying to adjust the shape, and I wanted it to look almost like a sun bonnet. So like a cute little hat you would pop on for a little walk, even though it is their, little mushroom cap. It's a little mushroom bonnet sort of thing. And this little mushroom is having a little walk through the whimsical woods, and it encounters this little creature. So the mushroom reaches out a little paw, and the creature alights onto their paw and, says hello, because everything is just friendly in this little magical, whimsical forest. All of the creatures have smiles. They will come and see you. They are friendly. You can pat them. There's nothing to be afraid of. And when I'm painting this mushroom bonnet cap sort of thing, I'm not worrying about if I paint into those circles that will be white, because I can either use a Posca pen or my white gel pen at the end and go over any red that is going into those spaces. Or I could just leave it the way it is, it doesn't have to be precise or perfect or anything like that. No. We don't need... Oh, I'm reminded of Possum Patty saying, "Possum perfect." I love that. That's when things are not perfect at all. And that's exactly how I am too. All of my things are wonky and just, there's almost always mistakes. And like even with that unicorn, I drew those parts of the mane I didn't like, but that's okay. See, I just cut them off and you wouldn't know they were there. And then with this whimsical page, I wasn't sure about that purple I put down, but I went with it anyway. So here I am using a Posca pen to kind of clean up where some of that red paint spilled in. And then I'm using the gel pen because that actually works better than the Posca pen, or at least it did in this case. So there we go. Our little mushroom guy is out and about. Little friendly, fun guy. Now day 18? Yes, day 18 was borders. So I figured I'll just make a frame, like a border around the page. And of course, what comes to mind? Well, dragons. Yes, the dragons, they are first and foremost in my mind. They always have been. I love dragons. So this dragon is curled up, and it's a snake-like sort of dragon. Doesn't really have any appendages. Or maybe it does, and we just can't see them. But I don't think so. I feel like it's more like a snake-ish sort of dragon. So I want to mix up my own blackish color. So I'm using my indigo and the darkest brown, which I don't know what it's actually called. And I'm mixing those two together. So sometimes I'm getting that sort of like a grayish, greenish color. And then you can see there's more indigo tone in this here. But I knew I wanted this to be a darker colored. So I wanted him to sort of be black. It's actually turning more indigo because I really love the indigo color. So I'm going with that because I'm going to put on a base coat like this. And then I'm going to add on top some of those shimmery colors. So once that initial layer dried, and I don't show you, I did actually dry it. I have a heat gun, but I don't show that because it's not that interesting to look at that every 2 seconds. If you have time, it's better to let the piece dry on its own so that way you can see what blooms. But when I'm doing my art, a lot of times I do use the heat gun because I want to immediately get to the next part. So in this case, I was really excited to get these shimmery tones down and add something on top of the indigo blackish sort of color that I had made. So I'm just using these shimmers sporadically to indicate that there are some shimmery scales, and I'm just grabbing some different colors and adding those in. You can see when they dry how nice and shimmery they are. And now that it's dry, we can cut it out, which I did, and glued that right in there on the page. And I'm going to use one of these. These are stickers from the Dollar Tree. They're keys, but they look pretty cool. The only thing is they do not stick great. So I always use a little tacky glue underneath to give them a little extra sticking power. And then I just kind of doodled around the key. And that was it. So now I am combining 2 prompts in one. So this is actually day 19 and day 21. So day 19 was interactive and day 21 was peeking out. So my son had been homesick while I was sitting next to him on the couch sketching ideas for this Junk Journal January. I asked him what sort of creature he would like to see peeking out. And he told me he would like to have, or he would like to see, a snow person, and then inside was a hamster popping out. But he was very clear that the hamster was not behind the snow person, it was inside. So I was like, okay. So I sketched it out in my sketchbook, and now I'm creating it for the page. And I actually have to go show him because he hasn't seen this yet. So I have to see if I did it justice. Whatever the vision in his head was, I hope I did it justice. So I'm going to do the background with water-soluble crayons because I don't want the background to just be white, since we have our snow person who's already pretty much white with a little bit of blue. So just a little bit of that, and then I'm just going to splatter a little bit of paint to just give it a little something extra in the background, a little bit of interest instead of just being flat. So we got to paint our hammy, our nice little golden teddy bear hamster. And this is one happy hammy. This hammy is enjoying being out and about, and they have made a hamster snow animal. So I just have to remember when I'm cutting this out and gluing that bottom part down to not glue the top, because I want that to be a pocket, so that way I can make this interactive. But then I decided I wanted to add a little more crayon and make it a little bit darker at the bottom because I felt like it was just a little bit too light and the top and the bottom sort of all looked the same. Got that done. Once it dried, I'm gluing the bottom of this little snow hamster on, and then I'm using this stamp that's actually for clay, and I'm just putting gesso on it, and I'm stamping to make it look like there's some kind of a snowstorm, or at least that was the idea. But I like that it gives it it gives it like a texture back there. And then once that dried, I gave it a little sparkle Mod Podge because this is nice, glittery, fresh snow. Nice and clean and sparkly like when it first falls. Got to get that sparkle on the little snow hammy too. And then I decided to add just a little bit of fur with the white gel pen. Just a little bit. And once everything is dry, we can tuck our hamster right inside. There he is, little snow hammy. And now our last page, which is actually day 20. I know the last one was day 19 and day 21, so we're kind of jumping around. But this one's day 20, nature. And at this point, I was feeling a little exhausted. I was like, whew, that was a lot of drawing and painting. And I'm going to give myself a little bit of a break. I'm going to do some gluing. So I went and I looked through my images. I have a little 3-drawer thingy doodle on the desk here. And one drawer has backgrounds and miscellaneous things. One drawer has people and one drawer has animals. And these are all very small images. They're not fussy cut yet for the most part, but they are just very small. So I just went through that, picked out a couple of nature images and a couple of animal images, and I'm just going to glue those down on the page and call it a day because there's nothing like relaxing and doing a little gluing. I was also thinking of using stickers, but I decided that I would use magazine images instead. So we've got our little caterpillar, we've got some giraffes, we've got horses, butterfly, flowers. So I feel like, that's very naturey, right? And that does it for today's pages. So here we go. We have our nice patterned leopard here with the hearts. We've got our opposite dragons. Really hanging out on that page for a while. Okay, we have our flow. Oh, I could have drawn Janet Nash's fairy flow. I just thought of that now. That would have been really cool. All right, well, next time. 19, we had whimsical. No, that's not 19. That's actually 17. 18 was borders. And 19 was 21. No, that makes no sense. 19 was interactive and 21 was peeking out. So we put both in to this one page with our little peeking hammy. And the last page was nature. So thank you so much for joining me here today. I really appreciate it. More pages to come. We will be finishing this journal, so you can look forward to that. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you again soon.